Hi everyone, my name is Craig Mitchell. I'm the principal of Black Box Modular Solutions, and I'm happy to see everyone here. I may not be able to see you at the moment, and obviously virtually during this very strange time for conferences, but really happy that everyone turned out to log in today and really learn about why modular and why now, the case for modular construction in a post-pandemic world. So let me get started. We are truly at a tipping point. You know, our Earth is really suffering. And from the COVID pandemic to the worst wildfire season on record in the US and the most active hurricane season we've seen in the Atlantic, really, we're currently at the mercy of external forces beyond our control. And as a result, people in our cities are also suffering from lack of safe, healthy housing. And so today, my discussion will center on how we can effectively utilize and grow modular construction in North America to assist our at-risk urban populations and really accelerate housing and being able to do it in a way that is truly sustainable. So let's look at where we were pre-COVID, and then we'll move on to a framework that we can use to grow the adoption of modular in those areas. So prior to COVID, the Modular Building Institute, who I'm sure a lot of you know, set a goal 5 years ago to grow the adoption of modular to 5% of the overall construction in 5 years. Truly ambitious goal. Even though the amount of modular construction has only grown 50% in the last 5 years, and it only makes up a meager 4% of overall construction volumes here today. And even then, it's only concentrated in a few select markets around North America. The other consulting group, McKinsey & Company, did a paper in 2019 that looked at all the predictors of attraction to modular. And again, it's really only concentrated in those areas where labor pressures are high and escalation of costs have contributed to modular gaining traction as owners look to alternatives to get their projects built. So where are those areas, you might ask? Well, let me tell you. The current hotbeds for modular in North America are really only centered on opposite coasts. We have New York City, you know, you've probably seen in the news, 26-story Marriott hotel being built there out of modules, plus a number of other high-rise projects. And on the West Coast, where I'm from, up in Vancouver, there's been a big surge in the use of modular construction, especially in the affordable housing sector. And then further down the I-5 corridor, into Seattle, San Francisco, and LA, San Francisco really being the hotbed of modular on the West Coast. And those are the real geographies that we're looking at for the adoption of modular construction right now. And the types of wood modular buildings we are mainly seeing constructed in North America are typically low to mid-rise modular. And we're starting to see inroads in steel modular for those projects above 6 stories, but mainly being supplied by overseas suppliers. The types of commercial modular buildings we are seeing are pretty well affordable housing, including transitional housing, multifamily apartments, student housing, and hospitality projects. So let's look at who those users are who are building these projects. I'd love to show this chart. Really, it's the innovation adoption curve. And remember the chart I showed you about the 4% of the overall construction volume being modular? These can be classified as the early adopters. They are the ones that are willing to break free from the status quo and see the opportunity that exists and start looking into the future. The greater majority, though, is still waiting on the sideline right now to see if modular is a passing fad or whether there is enough successful examples and an ecosystem to support the rest. This gap, as you can see on this chart, is what we call the chasm. So how do we get more people jumping the chasm to start using modular? Well, let's take a look at what's different about these innovators. In talking with my clients, this is what I've noticed that is different about them. They are tired of encountering the same consistent headaches of traditional construction. They see the opportunity to reduce risk in the construction process. And they see offsite construction and modular really as a system. They see the opportunity to standardize and they look at the ability to scale. And they're seeing building typologies as advantageous to a systematic approach. So mainly they're investing in the future. They are learning now so as to deliver and scale their businesses into the future. So you see a bunch of familiar names up on the screen here, and this is just a small sample of some of the larger players who have adopted modular construction. And why are they adopting it? Well, they are trying to systematize the design of buildings and accelerate the delivery. You know, there's some perfect examples and some case studies here. You know, you take Marriott, for example. Marriott hotels, it would often take them over 7 years to develop a hotel project. And by prototyping the design and standardizing a number of their brands, they're able to cut the delivery by up to 40%. BC Housing, where I'm from here in Vancouver in the province of British Columbia, began with a rapid response prototype for transitional housing using purely modular. And they were 40 to 60 unit single occupant apartments. And what they did was they pre-qualified 5 modular builders in the province and eventually delivered over 2,000 housing units in less than 3 years. And, you know, really, some of the other companies identified here are really on the same path. So where are the opportunities for modular, both now and post-COVID? Well, if you go back to my first slide and the urgent needs to bring in accelerated, affordable, and seniors housing for those most at risk, those are also the ones in the lower income brackets that are being marginalized in our cities. And as well, seniors who are finding the current housing stock is truly unhealthy and is inadequate. So add the fact that we need to pay attention to climate change now more than ever. We need to deliver our construction projects in a sustainable manner. We need to stop treating every project as a snowflake. It's this individual expression of design that we have typically been used to. We need to start thinking differently. Sure, there's ways to create uniqueness to every building, and we can do that with modular, but if we're serious about delivering housing, then let me show you how we need to change our approach. And so my experience here in North America is that modular has followed a traditional construction methodology. Whether that's in the design bid build method or the design build method, modular has been forced to try and build their projects on past experience in the site built world. Well, guess what? That doesn't work for modular. And that's what I've seen over the past decade, especially in the permanent modular world, is that this often leads to frustration of uneducated project teams and modular projects never going ahead because they are either over budget or they don't want to spend additional architectural dollars to get them corrected. And you know, this is a perfect example of this floor plan that I show you here. This was a project that was far too long before we got involved, and we asked the client to turn back the clock on design to start over again. Guess what? Never went ahead. So rule number 1, don't ask a modular builder to convert traditional site-built drawings to modular. It just doesn't work. So here's the approach that I like to take. Over the past decade, I've been refining the process with my clients on how to effectively utilize modular. And I like to walk my clients through an integrated design build framework where all parties are engaged early on to quantify the client's budget with just a little effort at the front end to vet the overall construction budget before going into design development and eventually construction. We can still follow the stages of design, but the roles of the members on a modular team are slightly different. So the advantages of this framework are significant. A, it reduces construction execution risk. It also keeps the focus on the project budget and ensures cost certainty along the process. It also reduces schedule risk as well. And as a result, there's greater collaboration amongst all parties because the end goal is defined. So let me go further and break down the stages of design and how they integrate with modular. Getting off on the right footing is key to the success of a modular project. So during the schematic design stage, collaboration of the team, it requires multiple voices around the table. So it means bringing in a number of people and a number of voices at the schematic design stage to have input. Also is important at this stage, pre-qualify your modular builder. Your modular builder should be at the table. Pre-qualify them early on. For those new to modular, for example, an owner, the strength and modular experience of the team are key to success. If this owner is new to modular, the rest of the team better have experience. I often tell owners to bring the A team to the first project. This will lead to greater adoption and allow the owner to achieve initial success, which will launch them into the future. They must also be willing to listen to the team. It's at this stage that standardization of design must be tabled. Too many unique floor plans or suite plans will all but kill the efficiency of any modular project. Proper scoping, delineation of activities between factory and site should also begin to happen at this stage. Modular feasibility to ensure the project is right for modular is also critical, and experienced teams can also qualify the budget even at this stage. Moving on, design development. Teams continue to work collaboratively and an openness that tends to be often missing in a traditional framework. Troubleshooting, design, looking at opportunities, by using technologies such as 3D or BIM to flesh out some of the early details of systems and clash detection, those are critical at this stage as well. This is also the stage to work with the manufacturer to ensure they are capable of delivering on the systems that are being designed and making sure that they work within their production processes. Ensuring that the modular builder and the contractor are also reviewing scope is important. You know, people often forget 40 to 50% of the work still needs to be completed on site once it leaves the factory. So integration between the factory and the builder is critical. This is often an area that doesn't get enough attention. Many modular builders in North America don't offer supervision on site, or they don't understand the site construction process, so the integration opportunity is lost, and it can add risk to the overall process. Also, should be constantly evaluating changes to the scope and to the budget at this stage. This design and planning stage is typically longer than traditional construction because there's more voices around the table and more detailed design. And ultimately, it's at this stage that design freeze occurs. So moving on to the next stage, the construction document phase. Most modular builders should be able to firm price a project once it gets to about a 50% CD stage. This also adds cost certainty to the project and schedule certainty. I often think of this stage as a building permit submission stage. It's at this stage that the factory takes over with their developed shop drawings, and they're going to work on those drawings all the way through to the start of construction in the factory. The building permit stage is often the stage that creates the most uncertainty and risk to a project for a modular builder. The inability of the authorities having jurisdiction to provide firm timelines is one of the greatest hurdles for adoption of modular construction. If factories are to operate efficiently, there must be certainty around their backlog. And without it, factories will never be able to scale effectively. Add to it, uneven bylaws across jurisdictions leads to the inability to scale modular. A successful modular factory needs to be operating like an automobile factory, with project after project coming on stream. Any delays in going online for a project can create uncertainty for both the owner and the builder and potentially cost to a project. As much as the construction methodology for modular projects must change, so does permitting for modular and offsite construction. Many building officials, they just don't know their role, and many states and cities don't know how to efficiently permit a modular project. This uncertainty creates risk to the overall modular process and hence adoption of modular. Coordination details, a lot more drawing work and site integration with the factory has to be specified with the site crew. You know, there's a perfect example above here. In this, on this slide, you'll see the detail there, and it's color coded. This was a detail we used on one of our first passive house projects that delineated between site scope and factory scope. And so the site crew knew exactly the pieces of the puzzle to put in place once the project arrived on site. The final construction stage is also where a modular project is won or lost. There are a number of owners who have tried modular once and have become disillusioned as their goals for the project were not realized. It is usually at the construction phase where the planning and integration of modular and site construction was not properly detailed. It's often at this stage that the knowledge is in the hands of few and success in the past has been limited. Many modular factories don't have enough site experience to understand the integration of their product after it leaves the factory. This then shifts the risk to the site GC, who has typically not had modular experience. Therefore, an early engagement integrated model is really the way to mitigate risk in a project. So as we continue to see climate changes around us, the integration of modular into the sustainability discussion is really quite an easy one. Some of the calling cards of modular are well known and well documented, you know, reduction of material waste, reduction in energy use for construction, reduction in transportation related impacts. However, one that's seeing more and more attention is life cycle analysis and end of life deconstruction and reuse. You know, the abilities to remove and repurpose modular buildings is truly available, and I've seen it over the last 20 years. I've seen the ability to repurpose buildings. This is going to get more attention in the future. It's also easier to achieve performance targets in a controlled environment. And this results in faster turnover of high performance buildings. And this project above that I'm showing you here on the slide is the Bella Bella Passive House project. It was the first modular multifamily project done to the Passive House standard here in Canada. And this project was delivered to a location that had water and fly-in access only. From contract signing to opening the doors, this project was executed in less than 7 months. Quite a feat, especially for a first project. What about sustainability and construction impact in our cities? Well, attention must be paid to the neighborhood impact. Noise, garbage, traditional construction activities. Modular results in less neighborhood impact just because of the short timeline and window to get dry in for most of these projects. This photo here is a perfect example. Over 80 modules on this project were craned in on a 6-story building in less than a week. The project was up, dried in, and now most of the activities take place inside. As a result, smaller laydown areas are required, and this also results in a reduction of GHG emissions as a result. Truck trips alone, not to mention cold climate projects with heating and hoarding, all of those add to GHG emissions in traditional construction. So how do high performance buildings fit into that integrated model that I talked about, that methodology? Well, actually quite seamlessly. It's at that schematic design stage that energy modeling in the building must be done early. This aligns with modular construction and the optimization of the building mass, and early decisions on envelope and insulation and systems are all done at the same time. This early integration allows teams to optimize the building form. So what have we learned thus far? Well, it's definitely easier to achieve high performance targets in a controlled environment. For example, you just take a look at this photo here, some of the penetrations of windows and doors. I will put my money on a factory installed 200-pound triple glazed window being installed in a climate controlled environment at ground level versus that same window being installed 4 stories up on scaffolding on a rainy afternoon. I know where my money's bet. And you know, you look at high performance buildings form really lends itself to modular construction. Modular projects tend to be quite boxy, as do high performance buildings. High performance modular projects are also a team sport. It requires the voices around the table, people collaborating together early on in the process. And you know, as a result of that collaboration, results in delivering projects faster. So during COVID and post-COVID, we can't neglect the workforce discussion. The one thing that is still apparent is that there is still a declining skilled trade in our industry, in the construction industry, in every single jurisdiction. Opportunities truly do exist for a career in modular by diversifying the labor pool. You know, we need to stop thinking that you're hiring construction workers in a factory environment. Really, we need to be looking at broadening the pool of labor to accept workers from the manufacturing sector or the tech sector. Opportunities exist everywhere to utilize technology throughout the manufacturing process as the industry moves toward automation. Have you seen construction sites? They're pretty unhealthy environments. You're much easier and able to control a controlled workplace environment in a factory setting than you are on a job site. You can look at the spatial separation between workers. You can manage it. You can manage who has tools and who doesn't. You can manage the washroom cleanliness. Staff can monitor, you know, your employees as they come in. You can take the temperature checks, control of all of the other measures within that factory. Modular projects also result in having smaller trades on site to finish the projects, which also lessens the impact on that declining trade pool that we talked about. As a result of the higher amount of factory finishing, it reduces the risk to worker safety on site. I didn't say it eliminates it, but it does reduce it. So let's take a look at the 7 key takeaways from how we can better use modular in a post-pandemic world. So, number 1, we need to think differently about the construction process, how modular fits in to the process to build effectively. Number 2, modular builders are not created equally. Pre-qualify your builder, pre-qualify your team, and engage early. Takeaway number 3, early planning and detailing will result in a well-executed project, which will breed success. Number 4, collaboration equals modular success and ultimately higher adoption of modular. Takeaway number 5, modular must be seen as a system with a push toward standardization. Number 6, as a result of that standardization, especially in affordable and seniors housing, it will lead to scaling and faster delivery of housing in our urban environments. And number 7, high performance housing is better delivered in an off-site manner. So I want to thank you for your time today. It's been a pleasure that you were all able to come out today and learn a little bit more about what is in store for modular in the future. You can reach me at the directions below, and I want to thank you very much.